Well, but you're going to go first, right?
If you want me to.
Yes, please.
So I posted somewhere, actually in the last meeting, I was saying that I was trying to get my lawn tractor, trying to get the steering motor put on that. And I showed some pictures of it, my original frame bolted on there and some new vertical frame members and a horizontal frame member all clamped together. And I was saying my problem was that now that I got that far, I wanted to drill down through the deck in order to bolt that horizontal piece on there. Let's see, can I pull up some pictures here? Blah, 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 random. Pull this up, share this. That's not the way. So I was saying that I got this far. And this is, so I've got my steering wheel is still on the thing. This is this gray piece right here is my original bracket that I'd made. So the power steering motor's hanging down. There's a chain hook and they do together. And I was trying to add this vertical brace, and on the other side, there's a matching vertical brace. And here's the horizontal piece going across. And I was trying to get that. I needed to bolt this down to the frame. So I went through and I thought, well, how do I know where I can drill a hole and not hit anything underneath? So I spent a lot of time doing that. And finally, I decided if I look underneath and drill down through the frame member, I'm not going to hit anything. Except then I realized on this side over here, run through the frame, they had a wire harness shoved through there. So if I would drill down through, I would have drilled out my wires. So right here, let's see, was that? Do I have a picture of that one? I don't have a picture of it. Without you can go watch the last couple videos, and I was talking about this stuff. So anyway, I got at the point where let's go back to this one again, go back to this one. Oh, slack is handy. So anyway, I got to the point where I was ready to weld this, and I thought, well, before I weld it, I should make sure that everything's lined up correctly and everything works freely. And I decided I really need to get this right here, this sprocket. I need to get this attached to the. Oh, come on. This is the steering shaft and steering wheels up the top. So I had to get the sprocket attached. I had to get that attached somehow. And it turns out I have no keyway in this shaft. Looking back on it, I would have been better off cutting a keyway. So I could have just taken an angle grinder and a cutoff wheel and just cut a vertical slot in this to put a key in it. And then see right here on the yeah, that works real well. Right here on the sprocket, there's a keyway, a hole for a keyway right there, but there's nothing on the shaft, so I can't do that. So I ended up drilling a hole through the sprocket and putting a bolt through that to pin it on. In fact, if you look here, that's why I did it. This is the steering motor, and here's the sprocket, and this is what we're talking about on the other video. This is an aluminum spacer that it's put in there, just a piece of aluminum tubing that I bought at the hardware store that just happens to fit in between the sprocket and the knurled shaft on the motor there. And then what I did, I drilled a 1/4 inch hole through. I put a 1/4 20 bolt through there, and it turns out that was a little bigger than what I wanted, because I was real close to the chain hitting on the nut here, no matter what I do. So that I wasn't real happy about that. So the new one, I thought, well, I'll get a smaller bolt. So I'll go to the hardware store and go to their high quality bolt. So I'll get it like a grade 8 bolt and get like a 1032 bolt. So it's gonna be the next size smaller than the 1/4 20. And I went over and looked, and they had a really pathetic selection of everything. Number one, the grade 8 bolts only go down to 1/4 20. You can't get anything smaller than that. Now it could be if I would have gone to another hardware store or looked online, I could have found something smaller. So I kept digging around. Finally, I switched over to the metric bolts, and I ended up getting an M6 metric bolt that's like got a hex, hex on one end, and then I bought a hex nut that's got the nylon locking thing in it. So basically, I drilled through this sprocket and put an M6 hex bolt through there to hold that one on. So this is now attached to the shaft, and this one has always been attached to the shaft over here. Yeah, stop it. So this one's always been attached. So right now, if I turn the steering wheel, the steering motor also turns. And, you know, just walk along behind it, try to push it in the garage as I turn the steering wheel. I can't really feel any resistance from the power steering motor. So I think that'll work out. That'll work out well. So let's see. Anyway, here's the new braces. This bolt goes all the way through. This is what on the power steering motors, there's a big long hole. There's like a metal, like a pipe welded onto it. And this goes through. So this is a pivot point on the steering motor. And originally this little bracket right here, this is welded on. So that was holding the motor to the gray bracket. So I just put these on. Since I already had bolts sticking out there, I've got a piece of angle that runs vertical there. And down here, I just have it clamped at the moment. So this is where I figured out how to drill this hole, where I could drill the hole that would work. So I got that drilled. And then the next thing was I went back and disassembled the whole thing and fixed the, got this attached. And when I was done, I took a square to make sure this shaft was perpendicular to this frame. And when I got all done, it turns out this thing is now shorter than what I expected down here. So it's like I got like a 1/4 inch gap between here and the bottom, which I wasn't expecting. And what I could have done was I could have pulled this off and drilled a new hole, either you know, just turned it 90 degrees and drilled a hole here to give me the new spacing that I need. I finally decided I was tired of screwing around with it. So I pulled out the welder and came down here and welded across there and welded across the back. And then took the whole thing off and put it on the table and tried to do some more welding on it. And that's when I realized my welding skills are just total crap. So I welded it. It had blobs on there. So I took the grinder and ground it off, went back and welded it some more and ground it a second time, and decided I was tired of that. So I got everything bolted back together, and I think it's on there. So it's bolted on there, and it seems to be solid enough now. You know, I can just grab it here and push it back and forth, and it seems to be solid enough that it's probably going to work. So that's where I ended up on that. And the other time I was talking about, let's see, I was talking about my, stop it. This slack is worthless. Okay. I'll go very slowly. So the other time I was talking about this black shaft coming up here and going out here. This is, it's got the big knob on the end. This is the blade clutch. So it pulled back like that means your blade's disengaged. If you push it forward, it means the blade is engaged. And when I was playing with all this stuff, I had to take the gas tank off to get in there. And once I had the gas tank off, this thing had flopped forward. So it was laying out like this. So I didn't realize that I had to be aware of that being in the way. So when I got done, right here, you can see I cut a notch out of this. First of all, I broke this loose. This piece of metal was spun around the other way. So there's a flat piece sticking out here and it's welded down solid. And I went to put it together and realized, oh, well, gee, that shaft, that's right in the way of that shaft. I can't get that to fit because it's got to fit between this and there's a little notch in the gas tank right there. So right there's a cutout in the gas tank. So basically it has to fit between that cutout and this frame somewhere. So I cut out this notch here so it will fit in there. So right now everything is bolted back together. And can I do this? It's all bolted back together. You can see the gas tank will bolt on and everything fits. So I think at this point now I'm at the point where I need to put some power on that motor and just verify that everything's going to work. And I at this point I don't see why it won't work, but that's always why it bites you, because you don't realize up front that it's not going to work. So that's kind of where I'm at on that. And after the whole welding incident, I thought, well, let me go look, see what Harbor Freight has. And they have one welder everybody's bragging about. I think it's a inverter welder. So it weighs half as much as the one I have. And watching everybody's videos, everybody seems to think it's a good welder and does a good job, but they want $169 for it or something. And I, at this point, just to make it work a little better, I'm not going to spend any money on it. So I watched a bunch of YouTube videos, and if I would have watched those before I started welding, if I would have got a piece of scrap and practiced on a little bit, I probably could have done a fairly good job. But that's just kind of where that ended up. And
Never heard of an inverter welder.
That's so instead of having a giant transformer in it that weighs 30 pounds, it's got transistors and small transformers and high frequency stuff, and it's just because you can get inverter welders, you can get inverter plasma cutters, It's just a different way to convert your incoming power into the low voltage, high current that you need to do the welding with. So is there anything else we need to look
Assuming
at
it's not
here?
good for continuous duty.
What's that? You say it's not
I
good
said
for what?
I'm gonna assume that it's got limited continuous duty rating.
Well, the one I have is limited duty too, but it's just if you're pushing that much power through anything, it gets hot, and unless you want to spend thousands of dollars on it, yeah, it's going to be limited duty no matter what you do on the cheap ones. But I don't know that it's any worse than what I have. So let me stop this. So that's put this back over here in the way. Well, if I had 3 screens, I think I'd be all set at this point. So let's see any more on that. Like this. So that's pretty much where I'm at. I just need to get a potentiometer stuck on the top of that motor and mount it solid enough that it doesn't slip. And then I can go back to where I had that little board set up where I was, we could go back through the Slack videos until they disappear and see the picture of that. But so I had a piece of plywood and I had the motor bolted down to it. And I had that 30 amp Cytron driver board screwed down, and I had an Arduino Nano on there. And then I was given that demo where I could turn a pot and the thing, I could make the motor follow that. So number one, I might just get back to that point and then take some of the ideas I have to make it work and just put them in there and see if I can get it to work relatively reliably. So I don't think I'm going to do anything too special. I don't think I'm going to start with. I don't think I'll put on limit switches or any extra linear sensors or anything. I'll just use the pot on the motor and try to use that without, and try not to smash anything. So well, that'll be one of my next steps on that. Okay, so that's it. Any questions on that before we move on?
None for me.
So the other thing came up was when I sign on to Slack on my Windows computer, it's got the Slack app loaded on it. It pops up a window saying, "Oh, by the way, congratulations. We're going to throw out all your old messages because it'll be so much better for you. Now everybody will have access to the last 90 days, except people like us that have 2 or 3 years of data built up. We're going to lose all that." So I was remembering that on the ROS agriculture, at one point, Matt did a backup. He did an export. Well, we'll call it that. He went in and did an export, which gives you this big, massive JSON files, which you can, if you want to dig through, you can see the stuff, but it's not real usable. And he posted that somewhere. And then Doug took that and found some software that'll convert that into something that's readable. So if you got to go out on the Google Drive, it's got the stuff that he converted. So it's like the old messages from ROS Agriculture are out there. But when I was looking at it, I realized it's got the text. I think it's got the people's names of who posted it, and if there's any images, they show up in line. But if it says that it has 3 replies of the message, there's no way you can look at the thread for that message. And I looked at it, I couldn't even figure out what these things are supposed to be. So it turns out on all the ROS agriculture stuff, we've lost anything that was in a thread is gone, because at the time people didn't know that existed and nobody pursued that. So I dumped out the new stuff. Well, the first thing is I posted on general and said, well, this all is going to disappear. If you want this stuff, you should figure out how to back it up. And so Bob went out and tried to do that, and he was following the instructions and it wouldn't let him do it. And various places I've seen somebody saying, oh, well, you have to either be an administrator or an owner in order to do the export. But when I went through the steps and did it, apparently I must be an administrator or something. I went through and I was able to click on the things, and it says export the data. And I said, go all the way back to like January 2018 or whatever it was. And it gives me this file. It cranks on it for a while. It says, here's a zip file that's 815 kilobytes. And then you have to download that to your computer. And if I expand that out, I noticed the one I know offhand, the random channel is 4 megabytes worth of these JSON files, which again, in just looking at them, you could actually search through them and maybe use them for something, but they're not real. They're not real handy. And then in those JSON files, if there was an image attached or any file attached, there's a link in there that says something like attachment, and it has a URL listed there. So if you cut that URL out and post that into a browser and delete the backslashes in it, it will actually bring up the image of, let's see, do I have one handy here? No, that was on my other computer. But anyway, if you can, manually, you could pull up all the files that were out there, or you could go to the files section, get the names. You could probably substitute them in that way. So anyway, just doing the export gives you this big JSON file, or actually like thousands of these little JSON files is what you get. And then somehow you have to convert that to be readable. If you want it to be readable, you have to put in more work on that. And then the other problem was the threads just are not there. They're not included in that data. There's a link. What it says is there's a tag that says replies, and under reply, it'll have something that represents a person's name. So whatever my name, some kind of an ID, like a big long number that represents me. So it says I posted it. And then below that, there's one more entry that's a big long number. It's like a 10-digit number dot 4 more digits or something, and that's a timestamp. So those two things represent where the thread, what the thread is called, but it's not included in that data the export. As far as I can tell, there's no way to get that. So I was digging just this morning. I was digging through their website, and let's see, is it on this computer? Yeah, so on this computer, they have something called Slack. No, I'm not sharing, am I? Share. Put this here, go here, share. Screen 2. Okay, so at this point, can you see the Slack API screen?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this
looks like a JSON file or XML file.
Yeah, so this is saying the Slack API, and I haven't tracked it down to see if I'm allowed to run the Slack API or if it's something I have to download or whatever. So under this Slack API, there's all kinds of stuff here you can do with it. I'll have to, the overview will probably tell me how to get this and how to run it. So it turns out under this, and you go all the way down to scroll down here, they're talking about, somewhere down here, they're talking about threads. So apparently it says, here's threaded messages, you either have threads attached or you don't, is what they're saying. So it says to retrieve the threads, you have to use the call of conversations replies. So if you execute that, however this API works, when you execute that, and you may have to tell it, for a specific, so each message is posted has a JSON file with it. So it's a big long,
Object.
list of this stuff. Yeah. And then under there, if it says replies, which this isn't an actual one. Anyway, the real one will say, this is a message. It'll say, here's the stuff in the message. And then down here, it'll say something like replies. And then it'll see right here are the actual ones. So here's a user called U061F7AUR, which equates to some actual person's name. That when you do the export, I think you get a block of names in a file. So you can convert that into, that might say Bob, or it might say Jim, or it might say George, whatever. And then this TS at the timestamp. So those two things together identify the attachment, or identify the thread entry. So they're saying if you execute this conversations replies against this data, then this is what's returned. It returns this thing here. So here are the 3 messages in that thread. So apparently, if you know what you're doing, you can make that work. Now, when I went out and looked, there are various GitHubs where people are trying to address these problems. And there's at least one that you can say, export the data yourself, run this data against it, and it'll bring it up and show it to you like a PDF or HTML or something. So it'll take all this nasty stuff out of here and just say Bob posted what was their blah, 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 blah. And you can see it. So it looks pretty much like the standard Slack screen when you're running Slack. And then, but that one, I believe, will not include the, I'm sure it won't include the threads, because the threads are not included in that data that gets exported. due to their infinite wisdom. So then I found several others. Another one that looks like maybe if you've exported everything and you run it against it, then it will, that's another way. I think one of them would generate a PDF file. And it said specifically it's text only, there's no images included, and that was by design. And then there's another one that I think you've started up. I think it goes out directly to Slack and probably uses the Slack API and is able to export all the things that it wants. And I think that one will actually get the threads. So I'll have to load that up and try it. I think it's some kind of a Python program that you start it up and you tell it the name of your Slack channel. And they keep talking about tokens. You have to have a token to make this work. And let's see, do they have tokens?
That's probably, I mean, if that's like a Google application token, then it's just a security thing. So they know who's running it.
It is some kind of security stuff. And I was looking for an example of that. Anyway, when you do your export, then down at the bottom of the screen, it says, here are your tokens. And it gives you these big, long things that make no sense. So anyway, this isn't going to work. But anyway, I found, as I said, so I found several different things where people are trying to make this stuff work. And if I just go look at those, because I think this whole thing about how do you execute that API to get the threads, I think that's probably going to be included in somebody's example they have. And it could be I can just run that example directly and make it work. So I'll pursue that and see what I can get it to do. And the major thing is if I can grab a snapshot of everything back to the day we started, then we will have that forever and we can decide what to do with that data. So that's where I'm at on that.
That's cool. Anything else you wanted to share?
Well, after we're done recording, I'll talk about this. I'll talk about this incident here, but everybody doesn't need to hear that one.
Okay. I'm just getting, let's see if I can get signed into GitHub here without blowing something up.
So again, my computer's telling me I have low resources, but they don't tell me what that means. So I don't know if it's low memory or too many things running or whatever. So we'll see what it does to my audio.
On my side of the house, I somehow blew up my VS Code and couldn't get Platform IO to work. And I ended up having to create another, I had this repository and VS Code on my machine stopped having the ability to upload a program into my ESP boards, and it was giving me some funky error that I couldn't. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Could you hear me before?
Yeah, I've heard you the whole time.
Okay, cool. I don't know which microphone is turned on here. Anyway, so I had to create another repository, and I've been in the process of getting my software updated. I've changed over to this RadioLib library, and I've worked out a series of, in this particular, I think, version of it, it had to go through a number of settings for the initiation of, and so although it's commented out here in my production code at the moment, you know, I've got the radio frequency set to 915, and I have to sort of work through each one of these because literally I could only talk to the two boards with like a meter apart. And so you got spreading factor and something called coding rate and getting this sync word. So I've worked through, getting all of those set up. And then this particular software or library seems to have the ability to send a string or a byte array. And the last function that I was using, well, as you can see there, that is defined as a byte. The other library that I was messing around with, this Radiohead, let's see which one, I'll pull up master. Let's see, do I have it in this code? Yeah, it was using integer type, and I like not the world's greatest C programmer, and so these data types were my next step is to figure out what data type I'm going to use to transmit the data back and forth, because I'm now sort of switching again from what I previously had to what this new radio lib lets me do, which is either a byte array or a Arduino string. And so that's where I'm at, is figuring that out. Yeah, these two, it's like I got those two options. Now, a good C programmer is like, well, what's the big deal? Just do it. And I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I got to figure that out. So because I was using a data structure on the other one, and I think I can just, the simplest thing is just to switch to a string and then put a comma between the data elements and just strip it off in a very sort of crude way and forget the whole data structure thing. That's probably what I'll end up doing. I don't know what the ramifications of that are, but it'll be understandable by me.
Well,
Other thing I thought
the
go ahead.
simplest thing at this point is, if you're using a byte array before, just continue to use the byte array, and hopefully they're both close enough that you won't have to change anything.
Yeah, but see, this is literally a byte array. The other one was an integer. The other one was an integer.
Well, I know in my stuff, I just had a little loop that says take all of my integers and then copy them into the byte array. And I thought you had something that was converting whatever you had, it was converting into the byte array just before you sent it.
Yeah, this was
well, that uint8t is a byte. So it's saying that your radio packet, you're casting that as a byte array. So I'm thinking if you do the same thing.
If I were compiling this, uint8_t is the same thing as byte.
I believe so, yes. I think byte doesn't actually exist. People just equate that or define it as something else. Like they say, well, it's really a byte, even though. So uint8 _t says, the T says it's a type definition, and U means it's unsigned, and it's an unsigned integer that's 8 bits long. So that's simply an unsigned byte. It's an unsigned character, which is the same as a byte. So by putting those typecasts on there, you're saying, no, those really are bytes, and that keeps everybody happy.
Well, I'll stick with that then. I'm
you can
trying to
probably just
compile.
grab the whole thing you got and drop in your other one, and hopefully it'll work.
Yeah, it was blowing up on one of the functions that I had. I'm not sure I've got access to that code because
It could be like the I2A was complaining, but that's probably going to be an include at the top of your file. So you have to say include math or include conversions or something that maybe is. That's probably what it was. Because I don't know if I2A is standard with if you don't do an include on that. That might be part of it.
yeah, it didn't like, let's see if it's in this one. Um, trying to see if I can find the statement that it threw up on. Yeah, it's not that one. Sorry, guys. Yeah, I'm not finding it. I don't think I pushed it up yet to GitHub. There's a function similar to this. It was doing a conversion and it was blowing up on that. But anyway, I'll instead of saying, it sounds like using byte is a poor way to do it, and uint_t is more defined, and that's better. So I'll try to just drop that in there. The other thing,
I'm not saying byte is a bad way to do it. I'm just saying that's just how somebody chose to define that there. But right there, go back to the top of your file and look at your includes and see if there's SPI Radiohead.
well, again, this is not I don't want to use that one anymore. I want to use radio lib.
Yeah, okay. I just wanted to see if they did have a special include to pick up that I2A function. So it could be that on your other code that's blowing up, that whatever did it not like the statement, or did it not like the parameters you were given the statement, or do you recall?
I mean, I don't know if it exactly said data mismatch. It was a data mismatch kind of error. It's like you can't use these two kinds of data types together.
And it's probably going to be a thing like take that I2A, for instance. It says that you want to convert an integer to ASCII, and it's maybe expecting a character, but you're giving it an unsigned character. So you might just have to typecast it and say, no, that really is the type that you're looking for. So it's basically like you're doing down below anyway. So it's sometimes you have to lie to the function and say, yeah, I know you want it signed, but it's unsigned. So you just have to do the typecast to force it to take it anyway.
I'll give that a go.
If you get to that point again, and you can call it, send me a message or whatever, and I'll look at that and see what it's trying to tell you there.
Thank you.
I know this stuff can be really frustrating when it runs into this problem. You can't figure it out. You don't know where to look.
Yeah. The other thing, you and I've mentioned to you before about harvesting grass. And I came across these guys, this company called TerraTrack, and it seems they make a contraption for harvesting spinach, and that looks a whole lot like what would be interesting for me to do if I were going to grass feed beef and harvest the grass and take the grass to the beef. So I thought that was They have two models. One is a little less expensive than this. Let's see if I can get to the.
Can you post that link to chat?
Sure. Oops, that doesn't have the URL.
So I'm just curious what the conveyor belt is. How does that, does it have little spikes sticking up on it? Is that how it gets stuff to go
How
up
does
there?
it operate?
Yeah, it just looked like it's too slick to, doesn't look like your spinach would stick to it as it moves up.
Yeah, here's their less expensive model, and the conveyor belt on this less expensive model is actually operated by this drill. And they've got a cable running down. Well, it's probably better on the other side. So the drill sits over here, drives that. Well, I guess they've got two cables, one for the cutting bar and one for the conveyor. And then this pushes it up on the belt, and this is changeable in height. I mean, it's a serious contraption with a lot of different options here, but yeah, like a cutting bar and a conveyor belt. I'm ready to go.
Yeah, it would never occur to me to put electric drill on to do something serious. I've seen people put electric drill on their bicycles just on YouTube to say, oh, isn't this cute? You can do that. But it didn't occur to me to actually run a machine from an electric drill.
Yeah, they let's see if I go back to Johnny Seeds is a well-known outfit. I'll click this video. I don't know if you'll get the sound or not.
The baby leaf greens harvester allows you to quickly harvest a 30-inch wide bed in a single pass. It is lightweight and easy to maneuver in high tunnels and around.
Are you getting video or sound?
Yes, I am.
Smaller, diversified vegetable grow. This revolutionary design is powered by a cordless drill capable of 1,300 RPM, making it a fraction of the price of larger battery-powered greens harvesters. A simple pull cord along the handle is used to depress the drill trigger, powering the pipe blades and winnow. You can expect to run the harvester for about 20 minutes on a fully charged 18-volt battery. The fully adjustable frame allows you to set the cutting height, the conveyor belt angle, and winnower placement for harvesting a variety of crop sizes. You can also change the winnower speed by lengthening or shortening the wires.
Winnower. I couldn't remember the name of that.
Test your settings to be sure you are harvesting above the plant's basal plate to allow for regrowth. This harvester is ideal for baby leaf greens, spinach, mesclun mixes, densely spaced one-cut lettuce varieties like Salanopa, and even tender young herbs like basil or cilantro. The rear-mounted collection bag opens from the side to easily remove harvested greens.
See, already done. You can have one, Jeff. How many would you like me to order for you? You're on mute. Did you say 6?
No, I said, I don't know if I have enough room to put that much spinach out in my yard. I suppose I could. Is that self-propelled or do you just push that? I wasn't paying attention.
This one is human powered.
Easy to push. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so I thought that was a clever contraption.
That might be somewhat of a pain to empty it, but as she points out, oh, it's real convenient. Just open it from the side. They're always telling you the things are features as opposed to, well, you have to put up with it.
Yeah, that's marketing. Come on, man. That's the definition of marketing.
Yeah. But
So
my point was, I don't know what that belt is for the conveyor belt. It just seems like you put spinach on that, it's going to slide back down. So I just wonder if it's some, has little fingers sticking up, little bristles sticking up on it, or what. So anyway, I'll go watch their videos and dig through and see if I can figure out what they're doing there.
yeah, they showed that it
They show it working. It looks like it works great, but as I say, I can't tell what that surface is on that thing.
Quickly harvest a 30-inch wide bed in a single pass. It is lightweight and easy to maneuver.
it looks like it fills up instantly.
It's a great choice for the smaller, diversified vegetable grower. This revolutionary design is powered by a cordless drill capable of.
That's why you got to have a robot pushing this thing with a bigger storage capacity.
Pull cord along the handle used to depress the drill trigger, powering the cutting blades and winnow. You can expect to run the harvester for about 20 minutes on a fully charged 18-volt battery.
Well, I was trying to show the winnower, see how there's like here's one cut, here's another cut. Well, the winnower is sort of leveling them out.
It's your sickle bar that's giving you the rows of stuff like that. So as it cuts back and forth, as it cuts, then everything falls back. And as you move forward a little bit, then as it cuts again. So that's why, as you see that, it looks like rows of those going up the conveyor belt. It's the sickle mower that's causing that.
To run the harvester for about 20 minutes on a fully charged 18-volt battery. The fully adjustable frame allows you to set the
See, there's a little bit of the sickle bar. And winnower placement for harvesting a variety of crop sizes. You can also change the winnower speed by lengthening or shortening the wires. Always take the time to test your settings to be sure you are harvesting above the plant's basal plate to allow for regrowth. You can see the teeth operating there.
Greens, spinach, mesclun mixes, densely spaced one-cut lettuce varieties like Salanova, and even tender young herbs like basil or cilantro. The rear-mounted collection bag opens from the side to easily remove harvested greens.
I thought that was super clever.
Yep.
Anyway, that's where I'm at.
And after you've seen that, you can say, well, I could do this a little bit simpler. There's probably ways you can improve on that too to make it easier to use and possibly even work better. But yeah, they put a lot of time into that, and it seems to work.
Yeah, I'm. If there's already an existing, somebody's already worked out the engineering, there's serious value add there. That's what's going on in my world.
Okay.
I will be happy to share with you my compiler error messages to see what you think about my data mismatch issues. And if my other machine that's sitting here next to me hadn't blown up, I could have showed you that code. I didn't realize I hadn't pushed that up to GitHub yet. And well, it's probably because it wasn't working. So anyway, that's what's going on around here.
Okay.
This is the let's show you the other. Let me get my share going on here. I had seen this one before. This is a handheld, basically the same sort of deal, but it's
really the thing that
the
makes
handheld version.
small.
Runs by a drill, has a cutting blade at the bottom. And they just use these
Just
fabric.
a blade at the bottom, or is it like a sickle mower at the bottom?
My recollection is, let's see if there's a better picture of it. Shows it cutting, but not the teeth.
Yeah, that looks kind of like they just put a, what do you call it? The hedge trimmer, kind of what that looks like on the side where it's got the yellow motor they showed on their side.
Yeah.
I never would have thought put ropes on like that to gently nudge your plants.
Yeah, there was trying to, it looked like a hedge clipper kind of deal. See, if you watch right here, you see a backwards and forwards.
Yeah, that just looks like a hedge trimmer that he's got bolted on there. Have you tried a hedge trimmer on your grass to see if that's going to cut it?
I haven't.
You know, this thing he's got looks great, but if you put a couple of wheels on it, just put a couple of lawnmower wheels on it, put a handle on, so you don't have to bend over like that. Boy, that's going to get old real quick bending over like that.
Yeah, that's not. But then this is a $800 device versus a $4,000 device. So, what's your back worth? Anyway, that's what's going on.
Okay.
Have a great day. Oh, you